And a warm welcome back for the second half, 20 minutes plus 4 minutes of injury time. That'll be mostly patching up Richard Hercock over here of the Yorkshire Post, who's taken a mauling during our half-time here on Twitter after his admission that he is a Sheffield Wednesday supporter and he's covering Sheffield United on Saturday. Is that right?
No, next Saturday.
Next Saturday. You're not going to Doncaster then?
No.
You've got a week to live it down. You've got a week to think of your excuses. A very, very brave man. Allegiances over here have been declared previously. James Gregg is going to give us a round up.
Yeah, I'm not going to hide. No, definitely. Bleed red and white.
Everybody's on the level here, including Ritchie Humphreys, the former Sheffield Wednesday player who grew up supporting Sheffield United, plays for Chesterfield. Before James's roundup, you've got a very big game tomorrow night away to the League One leaders. I say tomorrow. It is tomorrow night, Friday night. Yeah. Burton Albion.
Yeah, it'd be a tough game. They've done tremendously well coming up last season, being up at the top end of the division right from the off. Good, hard-working team, know what they're doing. A lad who plays in sort of number 10 role, Mark Duffy, who came on loan from Birmingham last year to Chesterfield. Good, bright player. So we've got to be, well, they'll be up for a game, and we need points on the board as well for, considering our league position.
Indeed. I've always liked Mark Duffy. I remember Nigel Clough trying to bring him to Sheffield United when he was here from Scunthorpe. I think he was there at the time. It is a tough game. How are things going under, obviously, a new manager, Danny Wilson? Good impact. You've been competitive in every game, but that was a bit of a blow losing to Peterborough, them having 2 men sent off.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, the games we have lost have just been such fine lines. We've not been outclassed or out-mauled or anything, or out-fought or out-battled or outworked. It's that fine line, and Saturday was an example of that. Blustery game, wind told set plays were going to be key, and we come unstuck from a set play. They did have a couple of men sent off. And we had lots of possession, lots of balls flashing across the face of goal. We just couldn't get anybody on the end of it, and it's been like that in a lot of home games as well. Bradford in particular at home. I mean, I could go through a lot, but our away form's been okay. So be confident going into the games, and then we've got a busy end of February and going into March with we've got Colchester away on Tuesday night at PE, and we've got Blackpool to play. We've got. I think we've got the Easter weekend coming up right at the end of March.
Yeah, so teams around you as well.
Teams around us to play, but everybody can beat everybody in this division, and we want to start tomorrow night with 3 points if we can.
Are you playing? Involved?
Can't really reveal that, Alan, can I?
You've made a couple of appearances this season. I think the second of them was quite significant for you, wasn't it?
It was, and somebody told me after the game that because I played early in the season, and then just to coincide with when I made my debut for Sheffield Wednesday in 1995, October. So when I played after that date, it meant I'd been playing professional football for 20 years, and it was, a nice touch.
Yeah, not many who can match that. There have been people who've gone on longer than that.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Stanley Matthews' record is...
I'm not sure I'll get there.
Not in danger, but he's still playing at 38. We'll come on to what that means in terms of your PFA role later, because in order to be PFA chairman, somebody has to still be playing, and therefore Richie's done that job now for 2 years and 5 months. So it's quite a stint, actually, in that role. I wonder for how much longer. We'll chat to him about what's going on otherwise.
Well, obviously, we've already touched on Sheffield United a little bit. I mean, the Doncaster Rovers play host to them at the weekend. Down to 11th in the table doesn't make for pretty reading for Blades fans at the moment. Want to try and put a little run together, I'm sure, to try and ensure that they get in the playoff places. Sheffield Wednesday, great win, wasn't it, for them last weekend away at Birmingham. There's lots of videos of the fans celebrating, going viral all over the internet from what I've seen. Great times at Hillsborough. They've got a couple of point cushion now in the playoffs, and they play against Brentford on Saturday, who are only mid-table, so it's a good chance for them to, now they're in that playoff spot, to then win and try and stay there.
Looking forward to that. I'm doing that game for TalkSport, so
brilliant.
Really looking forward to that game. Alan Judge, of course, is in the Brentford team, a player that Wednesday were very interested in.
Yeah.
But the fee was too high. I think 8 million or something.
Absolutely, can't believe some of the fees that are being commanded in that division. Can you at the moment? There's some. I mean, looking now, Gary Hooper for 3 million looks like a steal, really, doesn't it?
It does. Have you got a view on that? The fees, have they surprised you, Ritchie? The fees. It's a good point that James raised there.
Well, I mean, the fees at the top end of the Premier League are, and in Europe, are astronomical, and I think that's just filtering down. When somebody went for £1 million quite a while ago, somebody at a couple $100,000, it was still a lot of money. I think she'll become relative to teams that maybe have come down from the Premier League with some parachute money and things like that, or new owners, i.e. Sheffield Wednesday, being able to pay substantial transfer fees. I
was having a look actually at some of the Blade stats actually the other day, and the highest fee that we paid for a player was James Beattie, £4 million. That now is nothing, is it, compared to some of the fees that are flying about at the moment?
Yeah.
So, but we digress. That'll be a great fixture at Hillsborough on Saturday. Get back to non-league football now. Sheffield Football Club, wow, they're on a bad run of form at the moment, just 7 points above the drop zone at the moment. Should be safe because Loughborough Dynamo, who are currently at the top of that relegation zone, have got they played 2 more games than Sheffield Football Club. They play against Baseford United on Saturday at the Coach and Horses ground. Hallam FC, no winning 3 for them either. They fall to 8th. They travel to Hull to play against Westella on Saturday. So good luck for them. Right a few wrongs, hopefully, on Saturday. Sheffield Sharks, they're away to Worcester Wolves after a narrow 6-point loss against the London Lions last Friday. They're in the BBL Cup semi-final as well, so that's to look forward to. That's next weekend. I'll be covering that next Thursday on this roundup as well. Sheffield Steelers ice hockey, a rare weekend off, would you believe, for them. It's the GB break. Of course, Jonathan Phillips, who was sat where Ritchie was a couple of weeks ago, he's in that squad. Busy weekend. They've got 3 games in 3 days, the GB squad, trying to book their place in the World Championships. So, good luck to them as well. There's several of the Steelers players.
Good luck, Jonathan, as well. A smashing fella. First time I'd met him when he came in here.
Lovely,
really good bloke,
lovely fella, and good luck to him as well. And they play next Wednesday against Manchester. That's the next time they're in action, and they're in action next Saturday against Cardiff at the Arena as well. Rugby Union, both Tigers and Sheffield Rugby Club were off last weekend due to the terrible weather that we experienced. Tigers, they play against Firwood Waterloo, who are 3rd in the table. Their lead is just down to 9 points now at the top of that league. So a win against them would just hopefully see them pretty much home and dry as far as promotion is concerned. But I'm sure that they want that silverware as well to go with it. And Sheffield Rugby Club, they travel to mid-table Ilkley. So I might even make a little trip to that one on Saturday.
Really?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. We'll see how the weather is, won't we?
Yeah, it's not so far from Leeds. Going out into the hills there.
They can go for a little walk as well afterwards.
Good fish and chips in Ilkley too.
There is, hopefully. Yeah.
And a few pubs.
Yeah, wash it down, I was going to say. And also Danny Willett, we'll move on to individuals. Danny Willett, he won the Dubai Desert Classic on Sunday. Finished in style, birdie putt from about 15 feet on the last hole to win. Great victory. It's a really, really big event, and that moves him into the top 15 in the world for the first time. So well done, Danny. And finally, I've got to mention this as well. My namesake, well, sort of, Gregg James. He's actually been doing what's called the Greggathlon this week for BBC Sport Relief. He's doing 5 triathlons in 5 days. Today was his 4th, and he was actually in Sheffield, and he has raised a staggering amount of money, really. £400,000. I know it's not been easy for him. Cycling in Sheffield is never easy at the best of times. So well done to Gregg James. And if you do want to donate, it's 70703, and you just text Greg, and that donates £3. So great effort for him, and that is very relevant because he's been, I think, probably one of the toughest cities to do it in today.
Absolutely brilliant. I think James Gregg should do it next time.
Well, I'm not sure I could manage 1 triathlon in a week, never mind 5. So well done, fantastic effort.
Fantastic, brilliant. Thanks very much indeed. We'll have some news of squash and Nick Matthew on the programme next week. He's also going to be a future guest, I'm delighted to say. Where were we? Where were we with you two? We were talking about managers, Richard Hercock, Yorkshire Post, and did you see any of those coming? Neil Redfern, Paul Clement, Ronnie Moore?
No.
Have they all been sacked?
No, especially with Neil Redfern, because it was a surprise when he got the Rotherham job, because you all thought it was a long-term appointment. Very good in the academies, obviously did great work at Leeds, and you expected more of a Stuart Gray, I thought, to come in at Rotherham. Someone
he might do.
Well, he could well do, and I think he'd be perfect for the job.
Yeah.
Someone who is a good coach, but also knows the Championship, and can get a team out of the trouble, which he did at Sheffield Wednesday. So I was surprised. But having appointed Neil, it almost then seemed like it's a long-term appointment, and it's 21 games later, and he's gone. So that was surprising. Whether something's gone on behind the scenes, but
there's a real contrast, Richard, between what these clubs are looking for. They're in similar positions, Rotherham and Hartlepool, say, both near the bottom of each division. Rotherham looking short-term. On the record, just want a guy to have an impact, keep us up, and we'll look at it again. Whereas Hartlepool, looking long-term with Craig Hignett, who you all know well. Yeah. And in fact, I was looking at the odds before the announcement was made yesterday, and there you were at 10-1, of course, for you Hartlepool's longest-serving player. Yeah. It's quite logical. You must have been looking at those odds as well at one time, yeah?
I wasn't. I was in a meeting. I was at the PFA yesterday in a meeting.
I was thinking, my guest is gone. He's going to go.
No, I sent Craig a text today. I've known him for a long time, been in the North East, and worked with him as well. He came in as a player under Danny Wilson, and just sent him a text to wish him well and all the best, because want them to pull Hartlepool away from the near the drop zone. And Ronnie did fantastically well keeping Hartlepool in the division last year, like the great escape as they called it. And as we spoke about earlier, these things happen and managers lose jobs, and Craig now comes in and can be hopefully a long-term successful plan. Hopefully.
I mean, it's defying gravity. You only get a miracle like that once in a lifetime, really. The one that Ronnie performed at Hartlepool, to repeat it, it just can't do it. I don't know how you see it being a long-term job when Hartlepool's perhaps ambition is always going to be only staying in League Two, realistically, isn't it?
Well, I think they're in a better position now than the one that Ronnie found himself when he took the job. They've got some games in hand. If they win those, they can pull themselves away, and if they can secure that League Two status, fairly soon, let's say, if they go on a good run, then obviously you can start to plan for the long term. And Craig's been there before. He went over to Middlesbrough. He's been out of the game for a bit now, and obviously now he sees his time as a manager has come.
The really peculiar one, Paul Clement at Derby. Not so much that he got sacked. I don't think anything like that truly surprises us. It's just the timing. But it was the announcement that the club made, Mel Morris, I think the chairman, saying it was never about winning promotion. I mean, Derby are fit, never about that. It was all sorts of other reasons. And he accused the manager of short-termism, that he was trying to get promotion and they weren't. And I find that unbelievable, because it's a complete about turn, isn't it? The managers are usually the one that are victim of short-termism.
Yeah. And if they don't want to win promotion, why have they spent 30-odd million pounds on players?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
What do you make of it, Richie? I know you've got to be careful, but what do you
Absolutely,
make?
Yeah.
Are you surprised at that?
I was certainly surprised when he was sacked, yeah. I mean, like you said, they've given him a lot of money to spend on players. They're doing relatively well. And the reasonings, that the chairman's come out and said they're his reasons, and I think you just have to take that as face value.
Yeah, maybe you do, but how can you kind of take it at face value when you can't see the logic in it, really?
No, I mean,
James,
it's like it is all teams in that league, especially with the TV rights deal becoming, it's already mega bucks, but going up even further for next season. The teams at the bottom of the Premier League are desperately just trying to stay up for next season. The teams at the top of the Championship desperately trying to get up there. There's no way, for me, there's absolutely no way that's not the ultimate goal at the end of this season for Derby.
I agree with you. I agree with you entirely. To say anything else, I just don't believe. TV deal, massive, mega again, going up and up and up, which of course raises and makes more prominent the argument that ticket prices not only should stay where they are, but they should go down, shouldn't they? What do you think?
Well, obviously, we've been following the Liverpool story in the press, and they've come out today and said that they're going to freeze the ticket prices as they are. I think the rise that they were going to go to was just outpricing, the general public to be able to go. £77 for one person to go, never mind taking a friend or a couple of kids and buying them a programme and a scarf and a pie and a replica shirt. It all adds up. And I don't think, we have to be careful of losing that, of losing the home crowd support, the people that live around that area.
The kind of supporter, the type of, the rank and file supporter we must keep, mustn't we?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And long term, who knows whether you can buy an armchair season ticket. We don't know how that's going to go. But we all know as football supporters, having your ticket and going into the match and experience that atmosphere when your team scores a goal or your team wins, you'll never replicate that sat in an armchair. And so it's integral that we keep, the supporters, that they have a voice, and they've had a voice, and that's great. Because Liverpool have listened to it, which is even better.
It is.
And they've frozen the ticket prices. And I did hear somebody actually just alluding to what you said there about the money that's coming in from the new TV deal. How about one of the football clubs takes on themselves to say, well, actually, we're going to lower it for however long. We can reduce the ticket prices.
Would be a wonderful PR gesture for that football
Absolutely.
club.
And what baffles me is, as well, as the other day, Borussia Dortmund, they're protesting in a very similar way to Liverpool, throwing tennis balls on the pitch, saying our ticket prices are too high. I know £20 a ticket, and it makes you scratch your head and think you've got official Liverpool Football Club ice cream, this kind of stuff. Everything is, sponsorship deals, TV deals, all that kind of stuff. Understand if you're paying big wages and big money for players, you've got to obviously have some sort of increase somewhere in price. But it makes you wonder. You think Borussia Dortmund are a successful football club, and how can they charge so little?
It's a cultural thing between the two countries, but they've got it right, we've got it wrong. Is that right, Ritchie? Do you think?
Well, the balance is obviously fans will want to spend players on transfer fees and wages, etc. But then their argument, well, you're getting all the money from TV, from sponsors, from...
It's no good fans then turning around and saying you lack ambition and whatever.
Yeah, but there's always going to be a ceiling on it, isn't there, that what somebody can afford to go and spend on a weekend on a football match. The man and wife who want to all go as a family and take the children, there's got to be a ceiling on what they can actually afford to do.
Do you see other groups of supporters, not looking in any particular area around the country, acting as Liverpool fans have done? There seems to be a movement gathering force here.
Well, there's the movement of the away ticket price in 20s plenty, the tagline that they use, and so that's ongoing, and I think a lot of football clubs have joined onto the back of that. And I think from what Liverpool fans have done this weekend, potentially, you'll see more people follow that.
Yeah, difficult for us to comment in the media, I find, Richard, because we've been spoiled. I'm ashamed to say that when I go to a game, I don't know what the admission prices are very often. And we get spoiled. That's the fact.
We do. I mean, my father's 83, and he's still got a season ticket at Hillsborough, and but I mean, going to Sheffield Wednesday as an example. Obviously, this season they raised their ticket prices, and the idea was, well, you want Premiership football, we're going to have to, and the chairman come in for a lot of flack. Now they've brought out new season ticket prices for next year, and they're quite good. So my dad's one of these that's renewed in January, and I think the club said they've had over 14,000 season ticket sales in this first period, which is record numbers for them. So I think local clubs can take a leaf out of this as well. Because I look at stadiums, and as I said, we don't pay for our tickets. We're very lucky. But when you see thousands of empty seats in stadiums, you just think, surely the PR people, they've got to be able to market these tickets better at whatever price to get people in to fill the stadium.
You certainly get the feeling with Mr. Shansiri that he's prepared to learn. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes as long as you learn from them and move on and go back to the table. And he seems the kind of guy that will do that.
Yeah, he's new to everything in this country. He's new to football, so everything is a learning curve for him. But no problem making a mistake. Don't repeat it, and that seems to be the way he's going.
You've got to praise Sheffield United, I think, in this area. They're getting a lot of stick at the moment, they're being knocked. You've got to praise the club and their supporters. The fact that here we are 5 years in League One, they're still getting 19 or 20,000 people. That's remarkable, isn't it? They've got those economics right.
But that's the fan base as well, isn't it? We talk about what you spoke about before, about that the people within the city and just outside, maybe people who moved away, etc., still want to go and watch their football team. And if it's affordable, they'll still go and watch their football team. It's when it becomes unaffordable, you might get 9,000 at Bramall Lane, and you don't want to see that. So if clubs are getting that balance right, then that's fantastic for everybody.
What about your balance, Ritchie? Coming into the last 4 or 5 minutes of the programme now. Here you are still playing at 38, PFA chairman for nearly 2.5 years now. Did you expect it to go on that long? Because you had to keep playing.
Yeah, well, I wasn't sure because I was coming up to, well, I was 35 when I took over from Clark, and I only had a 1-year contract at Chesterfield, so I didn't know, but I was really honoured when I got elected in. So I had to have another year last year and then this year, which meant I can. It's good for myself and for the PFA as well, because we have that continuity. We're not chopping and changing all the time, and I mean, hopefully, I want to keep going again. But you know, like you said before, I can't be Stanley Matthews. It'll come to an end at some point. And whilst I am playing and I'm still chair, then you know, I take that role very seriously, and I'm responsible for speaking on behalf of all our members. You know, the 4,000 current 50,000 ex. It's not always easy to get it right all the time. In
the meantime, you're working with the reserve team at Chesterfield, aren't you?
Yeah, since Danny's come in, and I've worked with Danny obviously at Sheffield Wednesday and then at Hartlepool, and he's asked me to start taking the reserves, which has been brilliant for me because I've got my coaching qualifications. I'm still in the dressing room with the players, but on when a reserve team games come around, actually taking the team's a lot different to just putting on a session on the training ground, where it's a crossing and finishing session, maybe at the end of training for 20 minutes. This is sitting with the manager and picking the team who he wants out of the first team, and then getting some of the youth team players to fill in the spaces and give them an opportunity as well to play with men at that level, and preparing the set plays and doing a talk, making notes, talking at half time, debriefing at full time. So that experience of actually taking the team, you don't always get as a young coach. So I'm really grateful for that.
Step to management.
Possibly, like I said, I've done my badges. Love football, love the game. Again, I'll ignore all the stats that we've already talked about because of the love of the game and how we think we can.
You're not put off becoming a manager?
Certainly not, no.
Despite the horrendous statistics. And what's given you most satisfaction? What area of work as PFA chairman, looking back? We've managed to increase all the players' pensions. They get a non-contributory fee every year. We've managed to increase that. Areas of equality, which was the equalities department, was just building, sort of gathering momentum when it was a new department at the PFA. I think we've delivered a diversity course in every football league club for scholars, for first team players. That's been really well received. So it's the education of the diversity and equalities that's needed, especially from scholars all the way through. And there's all these ongoing areas, and it's probably not got long enough to talk about it, but everything that we do, we just try and improve the education department, the funding that the lads get to re-educate themselves while they're still playing, preparing themselves for that second career, making that transition as smooth as possible, because the majority of our members will need second careers. Yeah, the statistics prove that, don't they? Really?
Yeah.
They might go into management, and how long will they stay there? And there's an endless list. Every time a job comes up, there's an enormous list of names. You've forgotten half of them.
Yeah.
I've forgotten he was out of work.
Yeah, Alan Kirbishley. What?
He
50 to 1. Yeah,
he
exactly.
appeared, didn't he, on one of the, for Rotherham, I think. He just
Yeah.
crept in at 50. And Gary Megson didn't get a mention in the book. He's mentioned at all for any of them, even though he's one of the most successful managers over his career, pro rata, I reckon, in what he did. And he's been out of the game, a couple of years and doesn't get a mention. That's another story. I know you enjoyed Gary when he was on the show. We've enjoyed our guest this week. Thanks as ever to James Gregg, who's back next week. I think Tom Cowan, ex-Sheffield United defender, is among our guests from memory next week. And we also have a referee, a senior referee figure locally, talking about abuse of referees and why he has been on the brink of giving up the whistle. This is at a local sort of parks level. Really concerning story. All in a week's time. Thanks ever so much to Richard Hercock, to Ritchie Humphreys. If you missed any of this, well worth seeing a repeat at 11 p.m. or on my YouTube channel. See you next week. Bye. Bye.